So from the previous video, when I switch to levels, you can take it from here. So exploring levels. So in the levels area here, this is not the best map for showing off multiple levels because it is a single level map, but just to give everyone an idea of what's going on here, you can add a second level here, name it, it'll just auto name the next iteration there, and when you create that, you'll just add the same map. To give an example, this then adds the second level here, so when you switch between them, you can obviously see the markers switching on and off there as it switches between the levels. So assuming that this was the second level, you can then start adding things to your second level and your third and fourth and so on and so forth. But we'll just get rid of this for now because of course in this instance it is just a single level map. Now, one of the biggest improvements we've made in recent time to the mapping interface has been an introduction of the AI wayfinding. Now, this is a completely new backend that we've got that is using a machine learning component to optimize and learn from behavior and a bunch of different factors, including context tags and a whole bunch of stuff that we can go into in a separate video, to essentially provide a very fast and efficient way of getting people from A to B. And in terms of the builder interface, very easy for the people to set up those routes. So to give you a rough idea of how it works, it's pretty much the same across all three map types, apart from in the case of image maps, because we don't have a geo reference like we do in standard and map overlay using lat and long. We need to tell the platform what the relevant pixel to meters is to provide that math of, you know, between point A and point B, it's going to take you 10 minutes and it's going to be a 1 kilometer, because again, when you're working with an image map, it's very relevant to the pixels of the map. So if you upload a 2 megabyte image or a 5 megabyte image, it's, you know, 1000 by 1000 versus 5000 by 5000, you get wildly different results. Now, how you do that, that's probably the first thing you want to do on an image map, is you go into the general tab here and you get this unique option here. So you will always get what's called a node snap radius, which is when you're connecting nodes to other nodes, and I'll show you that after. But this distance calibration thing under here will bring up all the levels available to you. So in the levels menu before, I was showing you adding multiple levels, but we'll go with our one level example here, and you just basically open this up and you calibrate it. So the easiest way to think about it, and we've got a couple different ways of being able to do it, so you can manual entry or have a reference distance here, but the measuring tool we have here, so what you would do is you would find a reference point in your map. So say for example this building here, you would measure this building, so you would just draw a line across the far edge, and then assuming you know how long that wall is in your map, you can then go in real world distance. It's actually this entire wall is 10 meters, or that's probably closer to 20 meters for example, and then it will do the math for you. So it goes, your 799 pixels that we measured equals 20 meters in the real world. We'll apply that measurement. It will then save that, and you can see it's auto saved there, and we'll go, now we've completed our calibration. So we've got 1 of 1 levels are calibrated, and it's roughly 40 pixels to a meter. So that becomes very important later when we've drawn all our wayfinding lines, and then the user, you know, I want to go from the main entrance to this building. It'll be able to draw the line and be able to tell the user it's going to take roughly, based on your, you know, you want to walk there, it's going to take 4 minutes, and it's 100 meters. Now, in terms of drawing lines, you've got 4 core options that you can choose to draw all the lines. We've got walkable, disabled, bike, and drive. Now, in our particular, most of the use cases, drive isn't as important because 9 times out of 10, Google's going to take care of that, but you've got it as an option here. The 3 main ones that people often use would be walkable, disabled, and bike. Now, it's very important to work out what your routes are going to be before you get started, because you can edit them later on, but it gets harder and harder the more edges and nodes you add to your map in terms of editing them, because there's not an easy way to mass edit them, unfortunately. We will be working on that problem later, but for now, if you look at a map like this, for example, you can pretty much be confident, because we know we're working with one level, and we can see it's a bunch of flat land basically everywhere. Not many stairs or anything that you have to have accessibility concerns. We'd pretty much comfortably say that everywhere here is both walkable and disabled friendly. So we can toggle on both of these, so when the AI is doing the math, it knows that all of these areas are both walkable and disabled friendly, and be able to route accordingly. So if someone does put in, I'd prefer to, I'm handicapped and I need a disabled friendly route, it'll be able to work that out. Now where the difference comes in is, just for argument's sake, say in this particular section of the map here, where it's going under train tracks, it's not a ramp, it's actually stairs. You would, when you're drawing the routes, you could draw this entire route here like so, but when you get to this point, although this is, and this, when it's a dashed line like this, you can see it's actually marked as a shared line, and if you click on any segment of the line, you can see what types they are there. But this particular section here, because it's stairs in this particular use case, we actually going to go in and we want to mark this as just walkable. So what it would try to do is find, when you're the user in the end result map and you're trying to find a route, it would look for a different route that would be disabled friendly to get past this train tracks. Now in this particular example, I think there is actually a better way around the train tracks, so it probably would end up suggesting this anyway. That's where the machine learning component comes in. It tries to route around it and can't find a route, so it will do this anyway, but it will tell the user that it couldn't find a result based on their mobility type. There is going to be one segment at least of this that's not handicap friendly. Now the snapping radius that I mentioned earlier, you'll see as I come closer to here, it actually shows the radius around it. Now what that means is, if I start or end drawing a line within this radius, it will snap to this, so you can basically ensure everything's connected up. And one other visual way you can tell that this is working is you can see the color of the node itself. So this node being the yellow color means it's got at least one connection. This being red, it is a dead end. So when you get to the end of a path here, for example, and we're not routing anymore, you can see that if we draw the line here like so, and like I said, we ensure it's connected up there. I'll just draw another node there, and then you can either double click, or there's a finished drawing button on the left hand side there. If this is where we want our routing to start or end, that being red, is totally fine. But say for example there was one of these nodes were red, we have to double check that what's been accidentally done. So for example, if I go like this, just delete that section there and don't draw it within that snapping radius, what's going to happen is the routing system is not going to know that these two are connected because they're both red, and then this whole section here, and conversely this whole section here, won't be connected to each other. So you do always have to make sure that you are connecting all of your lines on the map itself. So to give you a rougher example of how this sort of looks in practice, what I'll do is I'll go to this put together map that I've used for a lot of my testing here, where I've already drawn a lot of the lines, just to give you a rough understanding of how it works. So all the lines are drawn already, and if I go to my get directions side here, and this is what the public view of the map looks like, you can choose your starting location. So because this is actually a standard map, a geo-based map, I can choose my location, which is the little blue dot here you can see, or of course I can choose any of the other markers that I've placed throughout the map, but we'll start with my location for first example, and then we can go to let's say Anzac Parade here. Now what this is going to do is it's going to find the shortest path, or not necessarily the shortest path, the most optimized path that the AI can find, and then it will show up to a couple of alternate routes depending. So you can see here this is 9 meters and 782, or you can click this one here where it's just a slightly longer one. It's taking you in an alternate route, which is going up a ramp here rather than taking the stairs here. Now, what I was talking about the mobility types before, you can also see up the top here 3 different mobility types. Now this will automatically display the ones available based on the lines that you drew in the tool here. So if you only drew walkable routes, it'll only show walkable routes. If you drew walkable and disabled, it'll show both. So that's how you turn this on and off. But how it works in practice, you can see my preference is biking. So this having a lot of biking routes, it's actually switched it to a different route, which is technically longer, but obviously much shorter, because when you're on a bike, you're traveling much faster. Now we're no longer cutting across this mountain here because we're taking the bike path, and you can see here it's taking you from, well, we know there's no biking paths inside this building or along this road, so you're walking to the closest bike path, and then from there you can then bike to your destination over here. And conversely, if we go, actually I'm handicapped, I'm disabled, we can choose a disabled route, and what that will do, now we've got an entirely different route again, which of course is much longer when you're looking at it from a handicap perspective, but it's no longer taking us across the mountain, because of course traveling across a giant hill with a lot of rocky terrain is not going to be optimal. It's now taking you along the street and taking you along what would be considered a much smoother, more handicap-friendly path. And that's basically how, in a nutshell, the wayfinding works. So you can go basically as crazy as you want to, and as much detail as you want to, by drawing all of those lines across the map. And when you get into the sense of multi-level, that's where you can start to open up this here, and you can see you can add groups of levels. Now what that means is an interlevel group is a staircase or an elevator or an escalator or a ramp, each having, again, the AI knowing that some can be used by some and not others. So if you're choosing walkable, all of these are relevant. If I'm handicapped, realistically only elevator and ramp would be practical, so it will always favor those when it's doing its calculation. And you can say if your map is got 5 levels, and we'll call this staircase A, we'll choose stairs, save that. And then what you can do when you know the staircase is, so say for example we go and back to our routes here, and we can add in just a couple more routes as we go to, say, this building here. And then imagine the staircase is here. You can click on this and you can make this an interlevel node. So this is the start of that staircase, and you can assign that to staircase A. Now this is where another color comes into play. When you're looking at the nodes, you've now got a blue color, which means it is an interlevel node and it's part of a group. And if we go back to our levels here, you can see staircase A, and when you click on that, you'll now be able to see that the group levels, the group nodes by level. We've got a 5-level, 6-level staircase because it's 0 to 5, but we've only got one node currently assigned to our staircase, so we can visually see that we've got 5 more to add. Now, of course, our map isn't 6 levels, so in this case, we're not going to be adding any more, but you can see how this would basically grow out depending on your map use case. Next, in terms of other little map features we've got available, you can see you've got a clustering option here. Now that just basically means as you zoom out, and I'll use my public view here, you can see that the markers themselves start to cluster together, just to remove a bit of clutter when you're actually looking at the map there. They'll all just automatically go in and out. There is a second option, which is by marker type, which is a little bit more complicated, and I'll probably go into a second video about that. But to give you an example of how that works, I'll open up a specific example, which is actually the live example of what we're working on here, which was an overlay map. And if I go to here, so if we look at 404, interesting. Open up this one here. So this one you can see same image that we were using in our image map example, but obviously it's now overlaid behind a map, so we've got some geo-reference locations. But this is just to show you what the marker type grouping is. So as we've zoomed out, you can see obviously we've got pretty nice layout of markers, not too much overlapping. As we zoom in, you can see the text starts to come in. So again, trying to remove visual clutter depending on the zoom level. And then to this section here, there's actually a whole bunch of markers in this area here, but the only way you can see it is, you say you click on this will then open up all clustered to that particular section. So this is the parent, these are the children. So you can see all of these rides are all part of what was called the Thrill Seekers Carnival. So that's how the marker type clustering works. In terms of display, preview option, which is basically just a logged in version of this public view that I've kept referencing here. In terms of content that's available, if you wanted to set your available content sort of application wide, what you can do is, if you look at this here, you can see our markers that we created earlier. And if you remember from the info window, you had both default and content available here. If you wanted to ensure that you only had one particular option, you can actually physically set that at the parent level, so you know that there's only going to be one set of info windows available to your users. Say you have multiple people working on the same map, they won't make the mistake. It's just a housekeeping, quality of life sort of setting there. And the other one is your info window style. So say for example on the front end here, you can see that when we click on this coming in from the right, you can imagine obviously you change that up, slide in from the left, slide in from the right, or open as a pop-up. Now this is only relevant on desktop. By default, mobile views are always the same. And to give you an idea of how that looks, if we open this up on mobile, you can see that the mobile here has that traditional slider based you can see on mobile it has this bottom sheet based scroll up and scroll down type scenario here. That pretty much sums up everything in image maps that you need to be worried about. Now, when we get into the differences between each map type, so we'll go back out of that one, we've saved everything we need to. When you're looking at your map library here, you can quickly see what is a draft and what is published by this little section here. And the next one I'll show you would be an overlay map. So just to give you a key difference between what's available in a geo-based map versus an image map, because standard and map overlay are very much similar. You're just overlaying an image on top of a geo-based map. We'll call this one overlay map, and we'll actually use the same image just to see just to show you exactly how the builder differentiates between geo-based and image maps. So you get this extra option at the beginning here, which is setting your initial map location, because obviously it's a real reference point in the world. You can we'll go for Melbourne Showgrounds. There we go. Now you can minimize the window here, and you can sort of scroll in and see this, and you go, actually I don't want that, I want satellite view instead. So I've got a bit of a better reference. So I've got a satellite view instead, I've got a bit of a better reference point. And then we can just set our area here, and then bang, this is going to be our main area. So as you can see, this sort of matches up with what our image is going to be. And you'll notice on the left hand side, this is a different panel that was available in image maps. With our overlays, what you do is basically you can add your overlay here, select the image, and we'll use the same one there, and you just go through a very sort of sort of handheld process of aligning your map to your image. So up the top here, you'll see the image itself, and you can sort of zoom in, and what you want to do is you want to find 2 reference points in the image. You can make it full screen if you want to, but because I know where the reference points are in this image, I'll just show you in the small one here. You can click in one point, and then obviously you've set your 1 point there, it's notifying you of that, and then you find a second point in the image, and I just know that's a good one to use there. And now that we've set both our points, we can go, okay, I'm not happy, I want to reset them, or I am happy, let's go next. Now, what are those same points in this map? So it's a bit hard to tell with this style of map, so we'll go back to our satellite view. It's apparently broken. I'm just going to refresh and start this one again. Not sure what's going on here. Interesting. Okay, so for whoever's editing this, I'll just go through this process once more. So yeah, when we're at this section here, essentially this gives you an outline of how overlays work, some suggestions on what image types essentially you should use. But to get started, you just go add your first overlay. We'll select our image from the same image from as before, and you can open it up in full screen if you would like. So you can just do that, and then you can go bang, finding 2 reference points in the image that you're going to be able to line up with the real world. So now that we've set that, we're happy with that, we'll set that. And now we'll set our reference points in there. So you can see I've actually just misclicked there. So I'll just reset that.